Welcome to this live interview with Vibeke Foss, owner of Gorgeous Geek, a web designer and online business consulting. And last but not least, my previous mentor at Acadium. I started my 3 months apprenticeship with Vivek in 2019. And as a business owner and female entrepreneur that worked with clients from different backgrounds and countries, has taught me a lot in terms of freelancing and digital marketing. So Vivek, let's start with a little bit of your background. How did you kickstart your career in web design and business consulting?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having an interview with me. I started, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, and I really started with something else, something that I was kind of good at, that I've been doing most of my life is organizing things. So I was like an administrative assistant um, in different kind of occasions, personal assistant, CEO assistant. So I started my first business just thinking I would provide administrative support to people. But of course, I had no idea about how to run a business or anything. So to procrastinate all the scary things you have to do to start a business, I worked on my website and I worked on my website and I worked on my website. And I really love to just learn. I mean, I've always been like techie in the sense I'm always the one people ask to help when the printer doesn't work or when their Outlook is behaving weirdly. And I never really realized that that's something that I was good at. So as people started to realize, that I'm kind of starting my business and I had done my own website, I started to get more questions about people saying, hey, can you help me with my website and do different things? And that's kind of part of administrative support. So I was like, yeah, that was kind of easier to sell without trying because it's something that people like, they get stuck on it and they really need someone who can explain it. So it started just by people saying, oh, did you make your own website? Can you help me? I have some problems with mine, or can you help me with this and that? And over time, and with some help as well from a business coach friend I had who kind of asked me some questions, what do you really want to do? And I was like, I would love to just do websites full time. At some point, I said that, and she was like, do it. And I was like, are you crazy? I can't do that. But eventually, I was like, why can't I do that? The first websites I did, they were small, they were simple. I learned how to do things properly. And yeah, over the years, it's just like kept learning, kept getting more followers. And I think 6 years ago, it was also easier to be visible online because it was just starting the whole social media thing, blogging and posting my blogs out there and going to networking events. It felt like a little bit of a smaller world. And now everyone is doing it, so it's a bit more challenging. But that was maybe in my favor at that time that I did do the social media work that I had to do. And I did go to, connect with people here, especially the female entrepreneurs, as you said, was really where I started out to focus on them. And yeah, and then suddenly, after years, I had a business. So yeah, it started out with an intention just to work on my own. And quite naturally, it developed into something that I easily can help people with that I enjoy.
Great. So, how was your first client experience?
Oh, it was super nice because in the beginning, I felt I was just doing websites for friends. There were people I had met maybe in a networking event or something. And at that time, I didn't really know so much. So I would do like half of it was favor, it was paid a little bit. And it felt like in the beginning, it was just nice helping people out and getting paid for it. And but I remember my like first proper client that came from my social media activities. That at that point for me, it's like she came like out of the blue. I didn't know who she was. She just signed up for a consultation and ended up working with me. And I still call her like my baby client because she's like the first one who wasn't just a connection or a connection. She had actually come into my
Actually,
kind of yeah, my followers and that group with my activities. And she's still with me today, so that's kind of cool because we've been growing our businesses together over these years.
yeah,
But for me, it's still like, yeah, really, it was like these innocent days where like running a business was just fun and little responsibility.
yeah,
And now it's more like, okay, lots of responsibility, still fun, but Now
Yeah.
it's, more, yeah, it really has to work. In the beginning, I had, savings and time and giving myself space to learn.
Yeah.
So it
Now
was
that
nice. Those, yeah, with the first clients, it was nice because it was like cozy to work with them.
yeah. And now that you have more clients, I know that researching for the ideal client is similar to like researching for ideal or target audience. And this
Mm,
includes not only the demographics, but also the aspects of interests and behaviors. And I
mm,
know that you have some courses on your website about the ideal client profile.
mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about how can someone find the perfect client that they can work with comfortably in their first experience in the field?
I like to recommend that people think about the people that they're already helping naturally, that are not necessarily client of theirs, but most of the time, the things we are good at, people will come to us and ask for help anyway. Like people have always asked me for tech help. So I just didn't really connect the dots that I was maybe better at it than other people in that area. And when I was thinking about, like, okay, I've been helping family members, I've been helping friends, I've been helping connections that I met, and just think about which of these people that you helped already were the ones that you really felt that it was such an easy way to work with them. For me, it's like personality. I like people who are, quite fun and like to look at the positive thing of things, that we can kind of laugh together about things that don't work out and not taking themselves like too serious and get really scared about things, and sharing some values. Sometimes it's just about things that has nothing to do with the business. Just so,
Mhm.
oh, you do yoga, I do yoga, and you already feel like, okay, there's something in common there that makes, like, beyond the actual task that you need to do, or in terms of coaching, like the service you're going to provide, for example, that there's some feeling that I really like this person and they like you back because of yeah, personality, values, and of course demographics and all that stuff is important in certain businesses.
Yes.
But for me, like, I work with people from all over the world. It doesn't really matter where they are if we get along as people. And
So
yeah, just
your
like more think
advice is
about
like
that.
those who are like having hard time finding their first client, start with your inner circle, the people that you know that needs help. That will be much
Yeah,
more easier in the
yeah, that's
beginning.
true. That's very true. Because just not being scared of putting the word out there that I'm like open for business and I'm looking for clients. It's something that might seem a bit scary because you're new and you might not feel that you know exactly what you're doing yet. But I also think like people forget that there's a difference between the things you are good at and running a business. They're two different skills. Like
Mhm.
I work with a lot of coaches and I know they are good at coaching because
Yes,
that's why they came into it. They're naturally good at helping people, but they might not be so good at running that whole thing as a business. So just to keep in mind as well, when you say you're open for business and people think you're new, but
mm,
you're not really new, more than you present yourself in a different way as new in presenting yourself as a business as opposed to the skills that you have and the things you help people with. You're not really new at that, I think, because the point you get to when you start to think about setting up a business is because you already have a set of skills that you want to share on another level than just between friends and family.
exactly. So, what do you think the essential skills that an entrepreneur need to have in the beginning of their journey?
What do they need to have? Discipline, self discipline, more than you think. Uh, I thought I was very self disciplined because as an employee, I was very, diligent. When I had all this freedom and no boss hanging over me, it was more difficult to be serious about, like, really putting in some of the work. But on
I
the other hand,
imagine.
that's, yeah, it's kind of a journey as well. I allowed myself much more freedom in the beginning because also after all the years of working hard, it was nice to just give myself a break. But on the other side, I think is really not to let yeah, get too discouraged when things don't go as you wanted to do, and that things don't grow as quick as you wish they did, because it's the same for everyone. It takes time to learn how to do all these things that are related to a business with the marketing and being confident about putting yourself out there. And that's a thing that can't happen overnight. So I see some people feel like giving up, like the moments like, oh, I had a webinar and you had 3 people on the webinar. Like, we have all been there. Like, I think my first webinar was like 3 people. And this, like, it's completely normal when you start that you try different things and maybe it doesn't work out the way you want it to. And the difference is really in, like, you just try again and learn something from it. And next time, you know, okay, maybe I'm going to do it this way. Maybe I can do it that way. That works. That doesn't work. Or I'm comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with that. Choose a different marketing strategy. But I think eventually, as well, the most important thing is just to trust yourself that what you feel is right for you, the way to do things, to listen to that more than everyone else's advice about what you should do. Because if people know you're new, you have a lot of unsolicited advice going on about what you could do. They mean well, but sometimes it's like people give advice before they really understand how you want to start your business and with which values and with which approach. And since you're not sure yourself, sometimes it's easy to just start doing everyone else's suggested strategy instead of what initially got you passionate about, I'm going to start a business. So I would always say is never forget, like, why you started the business and what made you want to wake up in the morning,
Yeah, it's
and keep that
important
in
to be.
mind when you feel like, what am I doing? Shall I listen to this person? Shall I listen to that person? Just
Yeah,
remember to also really listen to yourself most and just try it. If it goes wrong, at least you did what was right for you and learn it, because there will be things going wrong anyway on the journey. It's just
yeah.
what it is.
In the beginning, it's very important to be patient and trust the process, and eventually, you will be seeing the light in the end of the tunnel. That's how they
Yeah.
say. And one of the struggles that when starting a business is that newbies in the business that they w- face is like what price range to set for their services. Some of them are like thinking, is it too much? Is it too little? I'm selling myself too cheap or not? What do you think the kind of price range that people should set for their services and how to pick a number?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to say because it depends on the service, but
Yeah.
I think, at least my most experience is like working with women, that the tendency is that we undercharge a lot in the beginning. Um, I mean, I could probably charge maybe the double at some point when I was in the beginning, but emotionally, I wasn't quite ready for that either. Like, I would look at what other people charge
Hmm.
and try to, be similar to what competitors have in that sense. But in my case as well, I had some learning curve to do. There were like things that I was learning that would take more time then than now. And then I was like, I didn't feel I would charge the client for me not knowing something that I felt that I should know, considering how I'm presenting myself. So it's a little bit of a balance there. And I'm not the best one to maybe give advice, because I know there are like money mindset coaches out there that I think they give really good advice. Some people just, like, the first number that comes to your mind, they say like double that one. But I know that when I started, I was like, I wouldn't be able to do that unless maybe I had someone to do it with me, that you actually from the beginning work with someone who can help you through those stages. But what helped for me is, like, for every new client I got, I charged a little bit more as well. Also considering that if one client talks to another client, if one paid 500 and the next one pays 1,000, there's going to be an awkward situation, I think, in the sense, yeah, why does this person pay more than the other? So for me, the, like, starting at a point where I thought, okay, it was probably too little, but I felt comfortable with it at that time, and then increasing a little bit all the time, so that at least it would be feeling okay for me to get used to charging more and not
Yeah.
having the situation that the clients may talk to each other about rates and see that there's a huge gap, which, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. And it's like you're taking advantage of someone because you think they have more money, or whatever people might think about that, because they don't really see all the stuff you're stressing about when you set your prices.
Yeah. So, do you have like a fixed price for your services, or like it's like it depends from one project to another?
It could depend a lot because a website has a lot of elements. But in my case, I have on my website now, and I think for services that have like a package, it's good
Yeah.
to have a price on their website or wherever you present the prices, like a from price. So people who can see it's like, okay, it's not going to be cheaper than, in my case, like you can hardly get a website below €1,000 because it's a lot of pages, a lot of work put in. And in my case, having mostly coaching clients who need the typical homepage, about page, work with me page, blog, contact. I know like I have a fixed package that starts from like €1,300
Hmm.
with all of it included, including support and guidance and setting everything up perfectly, hosting that. I mean, so that's kind of a starting point. If you have nothing and if you're a coach and if you're gonna start a coaching service, for me that's like, okay, this
Yeah.
is where it all starts. And then if you need then like online schedulers and payment systems and extra freebies, and that's when you're like, okay, multilingual, websites, all of these things of course will be extras. um, yeah, so in my case it's more like, okay, this is a starting point.
Yeah.
And some people who might have something in place, that's another thing, and they just need 2 or 3 new pages. Of course that's a different thing that needs to be quoted, just looking at, okay, what you have in place, what needs to be replaced, and how much would that cost. So in my case, I always want to talk to the clients first. I don't just send out a proposal without having a conversation, first of all, to get to know each other, without any compromise, and see if I'm the right person to help and if we feel good working together. Going back to the ideal client, I don't want to work with someone that I don't feel comfortable with, even though they have lots of money, for example, because I want to have a peace of mind, not feeling that I'm, not ever like able to please this client, or they ask for things that are maybe out of my expertise a little bit, and I have to keep trying to learn new things. So many things to keep in mind, but yeah, always good to have like a base price, a from price. There was a discussion about this in one of my Facebook groups as well. Most people like to see a price on their website, so having some maybe standard packages
Hmm.
that can be customized is a good start, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's why I wanted to ask you because I've noticed that these days, especially not freelancers, but like for instance, agencies or big companies that do such type of work, web design or something, they don't put price at all and they don't even give you a starting point or a number where you have an idea how much it's gonna cost you, how much budget you need to put aside for such project, and they just say contact us and if and or call us if you want to know the price and stuff.
Yeah,
Do you think this is like something that would drive away the clients the moment they see such messages on the website?
I do think so. I mean, it's a big controversy about putting rates or not for any business, almost, unless it's a product. But I mean, one way it can, I hesitate much more when I don't see the price, because I assume it's going to be expensive, and a lot of people will feel that way. And I know that from just talking to people. On the other hand, sometimes when people see the price, the beginning price, they're like, oh my God, that's more expensive than I thought. They would never contact you because of that. But sometimes, if you don't know the price and you still have a conversation with the person providing the service, you can kind of suddenly see your project or what you want to achieve in a different light, because you connected with someone, you kind of get a little taste of what it could be like. And sometimes people like find money where there were not money before, because the value from what you read on a text document with like this is included, and the value you feel when you actually talk to someone, unless they're all salesy and making you just feel uncomfortable and having to pay things you don't want to pay. But I hear that as well. Some coaches in particular, they prefer to have the conversation, and through the conversation, like,
Mhm.
it's easier to say the price then without people running off. But I mean, I personally prefer to know a starting point for anyone that I work with, and also for my clients. I know as well as a filter, like if people cannot, if they have like €300 for a website, then I'm not the right person to help them. So I want them to see that right away, because that saves them time and it saves me time, that we're not having a conversation and at the end of it my proposal will be way out of their budget.
Mhm.
So it's better then that they find a solution that works for them at that moment. Do it yourself. Find someone who's willing to do it for cheaper, but usually, of course, you get less service in that sense. But that's why in different scenarios, depending what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you find what you can afford at the moment. Because I can understand as well, on a website it's expensive.
Yeah.
So when I started, I mean, I was not going to pay anyone for a website. That's why I did it myself. But I turned it into my business, so it, in the long run, it paid off. Yeah.
Okay. So, final advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs that are starting in the current changes in the market. Now, the market is so saturated, and the current changes, and everybody trying to shift their businesses digitally. What kind of advice would you give them in terms of like task management and the workflow, the that side of the business, and what is like the best way for the solopreneurs, especially when they are running business by themselves, to make the balance between running the logistics side of the business and doing their own job, like their services, offering the services that they have to offer.
Okay, I have to take the first thing first.
Yeah.
Like more logistically.
What
Uh,
advice would you give them to
yeah,
make the balance between like running the side of running a business and,
yeah,
like, for instance, for you doing web design?
yeah. I mean, that's something I'm learning first now, this and last year. So, because it got to a point, I mostly worked in my business until recently. And in the beginning, I had time to work on my business because there were less clients. Then there were more clients. So I was mostly dealing with clients, but then I didn't have time for marketing. So my advice, that just what I'm still trying to like implement, like always, either do like never forget to do the marketing, never disappear from social media, because that's the worst you can do. It's better to be consistent and do it more seldom, I find, than to do like 2 months where you like every week posting everything and then you disappear. Because when you disappear, nobody's going to miss you, like. So it's better to have like a continuous, maybe you can only blog once a month, maybe you can only send a newsletter once a month instead of every week, but it's better than doing the okay, I'm going to go full on and then not managing to keep up. So I would say, for me at least, what works now, I keep Mondays for marketing and administration stuff,
Hmm.
and try in the morning as well to do like 1 hour of who's going to do what, because now I have some people helping me, and then kind of do the work in the business that I want to do, that I haven't delegated. But that is the tricky part, because when you get to a point when you have enough clients, it's kind of fun, and then you feel like things are happening and you don't do the marketing. But then when all the projects or contracts are over, it's like, oh yeah, I need new clients now. Okay, marketing, marketing, marketing. Okay, I'm getting clients, work with the clients, clients. And then it's like, okay, it's over now. Oh, marketing, marketing, marketing. So this is a typical thing that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, that it's difficult to remember that marketing is important also when you have a lot of clients, because you have to keep it going. So setting aside a specific time for it. And I would say like first thing in the morning, before you even open your email, before you look at anything that gets other things in your head, because the moment you see the client email, it's difficult to forget it. You feel you have to do it quite quickly, at least most
Yeah.
people. But if you haven't seen the email, they're not going to mind if you open the email at 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock. Like if they mind that 2 hour gap, then the clients are too dependent on you, in my opinion. So having just a hour in the morning where you do your own thing, just make sure you pop into social media, post whatever you need to post. And then you have kind of the rest of the day knowing, okay, everything is now for the client, but I did something for my business first.
Great. Those are the questions for today. Thank you for your tips and advices for everybody. And thank you for having this interview with me. It's an honor.
No, thank you. It's also very nice to have you when we were working together. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure. So,
Yeah.
thanks for interviewing me.